AI is really just restricting the dreams that people have now. You know, the fact that you have to consider it before you consider what you want to do.
Oh, wow.
I feel like literally it has just restricted now, because you like numbers, you want to be a mathematician, but you just feel like, oh, it's not useful anymore. We have AI.
What you studied is not the degree you got, which we kind of, in our minds, we see the degree is what we won. That's what we've got.
Yeah.
Instead, you've got to like unpack that and go back to all things you learned and figure out what is the actual list of skills that you got out of that study. And you would have got some skills, whether they were research skills.
Okay.
Again, that's a multi-purpose skill, right? Because by unpacking your skills and turning them into that mental model of like putting them in your little Swiss Army knife, you're able to apply that knife to different contexts. So at the moment, you're more likely to be an unemployed comp sci grad than you are to be an unemployed philosophy grad. Philosophy grads used to be the joke. Like you studied philosophy because you were rich. It was a plain good. Only rich kids did it. You know, you weren't just studying philosophy to get a job, lol. But like now,
you're more likely to be employed if you study philosophy than...
That's not, I'm not advocating that you should go study philosophy. I'm just saying
Don't
what the
study
market
philosophy.
value.
What if an AI ran in the next election?
Hi everyone. Welcome to Khosi and Dave Have a podcast. I'm Khosi and this is my wonderful co-host.
Dave, how's it going? And today we're interviewing Bronwyn Williams. Bronwyn, I'm reading from the back of her latest book, has a master's degree in applied economics and guest lectures at leading business schools. As a partner at Flux Trends and an associate at Futurist.com, Bronwyn has a research focus on how macro socioeconomic trends and emerging technologies will impact businesses, etc. I don't understand what I just read. What I do know,
But she's here to tell us.
You're a futurist.
Yes.
Okay. So first question is, what is a futurist?
Yeah.
In practice, it generally means that I talk at people quite a lot.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, and tell them things that they either do or do not want to know.
Sure.
But in theory, a futurist is the opposite of an economist, because economists are trained to predict the future. That's what models are, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And whereas futurists are trained to get you to consider what the future could be if the best laid forecasts and models of the smart class fall apart, which they do all the time, because past performance is no guarantee of future returns, as your financial advisor will tell you before getting you to sign your pension over to them.
Okay, so like an economist was something that I was taught in school you could become, but futurist was not an option. They were like, you could become a teacher or zoologist.
A doctor.
Have you thought of carpentry? It could be a good thing. And in fact, most of those things with this new age we're going into, AI, a zoologist, that would still be a safe job, probably. A carpenter, probably. But what I'm saying is it seems like a very new term to me. Is it a new term? Where the future? I mean,
well, the words change all the time. I mean, it was all the vogue to be a futurologist in the 80s. They were a little bit more fancy than us futurists today. The futurologists tended to come up with new hypothetical inventions or write a lot of science fiction. Whereas the futurists today generally have a postgraduate diploma from the University of Stellenbosch or the University of Hawaii or the University of Turku in Finland. Futurists like an interesting place to go study for a few years, right?
Okay.
You might notice.
Okay.
They're none of the main studies. But most of them work as quite boring corporate consultants. Doing pre-strategy services, which is basically just trying to wind tunnel or stress test businesses' strategies that are based on forecasts and models against what could go wrong or right. So it's a whole lot more prosaic than what you think. But coming back to, no one told you could be a futurist, but they told you could be an economist. I don't think economists have been around as a paid gig for very long. Whereas if you turn to the really early chapters of the Bible, there were an awful lot of prophets walking around. So it's one of those gigs like prostitution that people have had for a very long time. Maybe under different names. So now you call it OnlyFans actor or futurist. But basically, we're doing the same old thing that we've been doing for a very, very long time. And in terms of like those jobs that are going to be around in the future too, they are the ones that were around for a very long time before. A great heuristic that I read, I didn't make it up myself. I should probably just claim it. It's like, if you can't imagine the job you're doing being done by a cartoon pig in a kid's coloring book, you probably don't have a real job.
Sure.
If you can't imagine your job being done by a cartoon pig in a kid's coloring book, it's probably not a real job.
Sure.
I was going to let that sink in for a second.
Think about that.
And did you always want to be like a futurist, or is it like a term that you found out while you wanted to be maybe an economist, and then you were like, oh, a futurist as well?
Well, I've been doing futuring for longer than I have been an official economist. I got my master's degree in economics just for fun, really. That was my COVID hobby, put it that way. But
COVID hobby.
Okay, we all needed one, right?
Yeah.
Some of us baked sourdough bread. Others of us just did a master's in applied economics.
So did the pandemic turn you into a futurist?
No. I've been doing futuring for quite a while longer. Although I started out being a trained analyst, which is just a lower ranked futurist. I mean, you'll notice on LinkedIn that a lot of trained analysts are now trying to rebrand themselves as cultural futurists because futurists get paid more, I think.
Okay. Moving off from that now, you've got a new book out.
Yes.
Survive the AI Apocalypse, a guide for solutionists. That's also a word that
we made it up.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so
that is not a real word, but we're going to make it one. We put it on our bags and on our t-shirts and on our buttons, so it's a real thing now.
Okay, a solutionist is a real thing now. Sorry, we didn't mention that this book is written by you and Sharon Pearce. Okay.
Yes.
What is a solutionist?
A solutionist is someone who sees a problem and solves the problem. In other words, someone who has a real job, not someone who just moves money around, which is what most of us, and I say us loosely because people who live or listen to podcasts or have the time and the inclination to listen to podcasts are probably part of the moving money, words and numbers around side of the economy rather than the side of the little piggies in the coloring book side of the economy.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, there's this whole in this book, I've started reading it. You speak about the term you use is do you have a bullshit job?
Yeah, we didn't make that up either. That is a real term.
That is a real term, and that's basically that would be a job that a cartoon pig can't do.
The bullshit jobs are generally not jobs done by little piggies. So, they have actual shit, but they don't have bullshit jobs.
So, and one of the things that you said here, which really got me thinking was, so you said that in the future, was it like the
consultants?
Like consultants, they're like board members or
those two.
Those guys, you said, they're in danger of not having jobs because that kind of thing can be done by AI?
Can be done by AI, but the bigger question is, does it need to be done at all? Which is really the question around bullshit jobs. And there's a free test on our website, which is, there's a test on there called the bullshit quotient test that will tell you how much of your job is effectively nonsense, however well paid it is, which is the other important thing to note.
Yes, like you said, a lot of the well-paid jobs are, you speak about them providing value to...
Or quite the opposite. The easiest way to describe that is there's a distinction between shit jobs and bullshit jobs. A shit job is a job that you don't want to do but might be necessary. In the nuclear sense, it would be changing your child's nappy. In the real world sense, it would be picking up the trash, right? These are necessary functions. They're not jobs you want, but they're jobs that are necessary. And shit jobs are often underpaid because they're real and necessary, but they're not necessarily valued with speculative value that can come from the nice financialized sector. Whereas bullshit jobs, often quite the opposite. They're often overpaid, but add little to, in all too many circumstances, negative value to society. That's because that's the way the world works. Your price and your value are not really the same thing to society. And we're able to get away with those distortions because there's a whole lot of macro inefficiencies in our economy, like money printing, which distorts the value of everything. And before you notice, you're poorer and American bankers are richer, right? So it's not because they added more value to the world, but it's certainly because they accumulated more money, right? So there's a lot of inefficiencies that prop up the bullshit economy. Our contention with this book is that a lot of the bullshit economy is about to be abstracted away to the higher orders of bullshit, which means that the people who are better at playing the bullshit game will accumulate even more wealth, but people that were getting away with bullshit in the middle of the economy are going to find themselves in the shit side of the economy really quickly.
Okay.
And is that how you guys actually measure how a job actually is then part of like the bull kind of jobs? Is that how do you actually measure, especially on the website?
Yeah.
How do you actually know that, okay, this job, no, this one is actually value to it?
Yeah, so that test, the BS quotient test, which is what it's called, is a whole series of questions that look to the percentage of your day you spend on waste of time tasks. And waste of time tasks hide in all sorts of different places. Waste of time tasks are tasks that add no value to anyone, even if you can charge billable hours for them. I mean, a lot of lawyers and consultants make a lot of money for perpetuating bullshit and getting you to believe that it has a price that has to be paid, right?
Sure.
Sometimes they get away with it because there's like regulatory moats that force us to pay for crap. But other times just because we are bullshit baffles brains, as they say, right? So quite often we think busyness equals value. Oh, this person is so busy. They're great. But you can be busy in the old world before we had computers moving papers from one side of the office to the other. And this is the busiest person ran Herod all the way through the day, but they added no value. And today you can do the same thing. You know, there's like you can rearrange numbers on a spreadsheet forever without actually getting to an answer that's useful to anyone. The whole consulting industry, which Sharon is a consultant, the co-author on the book. That's Sharon. So she's a business transformation consultant. So she's the person that large organizations, mainly banks, hire to diagnose the bullshit in the organization and then make, shall we say, strongly worded suggestions as to where capital is being wasted. Where human capital is being wasted, or where capital is being wasted on humans, right? And quite often she will find that in people that look very, very busy doing things, producing PowerPoint decks, producing Excel spreadsheets, attending meetings. These are all signs of busyness, but without value at the end. So this is the thing about the bullshit economy, is quite often it's very well paid. So we think, oh, these people are so well paid. They must be so much smarter than me. They must be adding so much more value than me. No, they just caught on to the grift, you know? So there's two main types of bullshit. The one is the one that lies under the radar, in the so-called lazy girl jobs. Maybe you've heard about these things, the ones where with minimum effort you can get a nice middle-class salary. You just sort of keep your head down and, you know, pass, go, collect the paycheck, but you don't actually do any work other than hanging around the water cooler and maybe painting your nails a bit, you know, doing that stuff. Then the other type of bullshit hides in busyness. Moats and moats of stuff, meetings and work and tasks, but without actually adding value, and quite often adding cost, which is quite the opposite, because all those processes add costs to you, the end person. Use banks again as an example. All those people who are getting paid those nice salaries in the bank end up on your bank fees that you charge.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of nonsense in our economy. Put it
and luckily, those jobs are going to go away.
Well, some of them, as I said, it's not super fair in that the thing with the bullshit economy is it's very attractive because it's nice work if you can get it, right? Because it's not doing much and getting paid quite a lot. I mean, and generally everyone wants that. It's just like everyone wants to be an influencer. Very similar thing there. You know, everyone wants to do it. It's great work if it works. It doesn't work for everyone though. But what's happening now with automation and globalization is that the bullshit is accruing into a smaller and smaller corner of the market. In other words, if say 50% of the market, the nice, as we call them, soft middle class, which soft like any sort of fattened animal with a nice soft underbelly is quite tempting to bite, right? So the more predator side of the bullshit economy is coming to eat the soft underbelly, the nice middle class Zoom worker typing class. You know, the people who sat on the couch in their pajamas during COVID and actually got richer. Those people are at risk of more predatory forms of bullshit in the form of very large tech platforms and very large billionaires and very large powerful players who are going to eat a larger share of the bullshit economy for themselves, meaning a lot of people who have got away with being beneficiaries of the inefficiencies in our system will suddenly find themselves on the other side of the equation and feel very, very sorry for themselves. Because they're not going to understand why they used to get paid a lot of money for doing very little and now they're not. It's because somebody who was both a smarter grifter and a more powerful grifter is going to eat a larger market share. So we're seeing two things happen. For most people, the vast majority of the world, average is getting bigger, which means privilege is getting flattened, which means it's becoming more democratic, actually. The difference between the rates of pay for a shit job and a bullshit job is going to shrink. But on the other side, in the corner, for the very, very small amount of very smart, savvy, aggressive, predatory bullshit players are going to get much richer. So inequality is going to grow at the edges, but it's going to flatten a lot in the middle. And for a very unequal society like South Africa, that means there's kind of a privilege apocalypse at play. People who've inherited privilege, who have got away with, like there was a gentleman at our book launch who was like, your value and your price are clearly correlated. Like, clearly you women don't know what you're talking about. Clearly I deserve all the money that I have. But I'm like, you, my dear, are a 70-year-old white man living in South Africa. It was very hard not to be on the winning side of the equation. You know, it's very, it's quite different on the other side of the equation. Likewise, the children of very rich parts of the world, the Americas and Europe, are feeling their privilege stripped away from them in a way that they feel very unfair about this. Like, my parents, you know, my mom didn't work. My dad worked maybe 9 to 3 and then played a round of golf. And we know he wasn't that smart because he was my dad. I know that I could beat him at chess, you know, or even at Monopoly. But yet he was able to afford a 4-bedroom house and twice yearly trips to, you know, the Caribbean or Italy, whatever. And like, I work harder. I'm smarter than my dad and I have a computer science degree. And why is it that I can't afford more than 100%. A flat? And they think that that it's unfair. But at the same time, for a young African that's growing up in the world, that came from living in informal settlement, who now has that same degree, they're suddenly earning the same in more real terms. So that privilege curve is being flattened, meaning that everyone that was on the upside of average is suddenly coming to average, and people who are on the downside of average are moving up. So there's some opportunities depending on your expectation versus reality equation. So that's the whole thing, that happiness equals the difference between your reality and your expectations. So whether that's reversed or not depends whether the flattening of the privilege curve for the vast majority of us normal people is going to feel terrible for some people but feel like opportunities for others. And the best way to look at that is looking at young people's attitudes towards artificial intelligence across the world. And in the weird West, that's the Western industrialized whole educated part of the world, young people see artificial intelligence as a threat to their privilege.
Young people see AI as a threat.
To the point that you see young people in the UK saying, what's the point in studying anything at all, because AI is just going to take all the jobs, so I won't even bother trying. Pessimism. But whereas young people in Africa and Asia, underdeveloped or developing parts of the world, see AI as an opportunity. That's and so rightly exciting. They should. So I mean, like, this is it's very socialist what's happening, except for the little proviso that the really predatory part of the bullshit market is certainly going to eat up a lot of that. A lot more. They're going to get even fatter than ever, which is what we see. We see inequality is growing at the edges, but that overall the world is becoming more equal.
So those would be, I mean, the creators of the AI platforms like ChatGPT, where I heard the amount that they raised on recently.
You can't compete with that because they raised that on promise. Promise is infinite potential. They didn't raise it on your actual earning capacity, which is tied for most of us either to our time, if you are like a prophet / court jester / futurist like myself, whose earnings are tied to the number of hours that I can perform for people, or so if you're in the real world making stuff, if you're the little piggy in the coloring book that is a chef, you can only plate so many meals in a day. Your potential is capped, whereas the infinite potential of the digital and financial market is very, very hard for us to compete with.
Awesome. I want to reverse back to what you said about young people in developed countries like Europe saying, what's the point in studying? Because I was wondering that myself. Like a few years ago, I had an idea for a website I wanted to build. So I started teaching myself how to like program websites. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't actually need to do that. not because the website didn't go anywhere, but because like now it's much easier to do that.
Yeah.
But you're saying that young people in Africa and Asia still believe in studying and still believe in bettering their education. Is that still a good idea? Like studying things, I mean, maybe not website design unless you want to understand what the AI is doing, but is it worth studying things like statistics or or economics or I don't know, any of those kinds of things that not necessarily are going to be taken away or taken over by AI, but at least supplemented by it? I don't know. Is it worth doing that?
Well, that's a very broad question. So let's just talk to the South African context. We have a very unequal market and a huge skills gap. We have more companies that have vacancies for skilled graduates than we have skilled graduates. So yeah, if you're a skilled graduate or you're a smart person, it still makes sense to study in South Africa. Like in our particular context, but that's due to our unequal past and the massive variances in our economy.
Yeah.
That's assuming, of course, that our government isn't particularly nice to those digital nomads and allows just as skilled workers from India to come and fill those roles, for example, that they can do without you having to study at all. I mean, you can just teleprompt them in, So it really, again, depends on what it is. So there are inefficiencies in your market and there's gaps still to be filled. Yeah, there's certainly places, but that doesn't go for any degree. Remember, in South Africa, we've still got over 800,000 degree graduates on COVID relief grants that never found a job. Okay.
Sure.
Oh.
So because they studied things that weren't valued by the market.
Okay.
So, but as to what those things are that are going to be valued by the market, that is shifting quite dramatically. So at the moment, you're more likely to be an unemployed comp sci grad than you are to be an unemployed philosophy grad. Philosophy grads used to be the joke. Like you studied philosophy because you were rich. It was a blame good. Only rich kids did it. You weren't just studying philosophy to get a job, lol. Sure. But like now,
you're more likely to be employed if you study philosophy than...
That's not, I'm not advocating that you should go study philosophy. I'm just saying what the market value of comp sci is now dropped for those same reasons that you said, because those skills are no longer valid and valuable to the market. So there are places for graduates in roles that require skilled graduates, like things like flying an airplane. You don't need a degree, but you certainly need skills, and your very bespoke skills that cost a lot of money. You will find a place if you have those skills. Becoming a doctor. You kind of need to go to university to be a doctor. You're not going to be able to. You might think you'll be able to hack your way into sort of healing your children with WebMD and the few herbs you grow in the garden. But I mean, if you want to actually do brain surgery, people are going to require you to have a little bit of educational skills. So some things are worth studying, but the value of a degree, just a generic degree, you might have some questions there.
So anybody who is in matric now, who are trying to figure out what to study next year, I mean, what would you say to them?
Well, you need to find yourself skills that are going to be useful for a long time. And there's kind of two places to find that. The one is in professional skills, like being a doctor, being a physiotherapist, those sorts of things are not going to disappear. Or even being a pastor, the church is always looking for people to fill those roles. It's like being a prostitute or a philosopher. They're out there. There's roles for you, maybe not too many, but they're there. So study a profession for which which delivers a direct service. How do you know it's a profession? You're delivering the service to the end user. Yeah. Your doctor, your therapist. Therapy is a very quick growing career at the moment, but you don't need a degree for that either. But psychologist, the more qualified, the direct service providers, yes, they're going to be okay. Same with like professional engineers or professional geologists. A profession where the skills you use allows you to run your own practice. Go for it. If your skills are somewhat more abstracted, like being a real estate lawyer. Yeah. That's only, I don't know if you've ever tried to purchase or rent property. I mean, they paid like 10,000 Rand. I don't know what your listeners, where they come from, just to photocopy some paper. I mean, like, that's bullshit right there, right? Those sorts of tasks, eventually, they have regulatory moats. Lawyers are quite clever. But on the fringes, the less well-paid lawyers are going to be part of that sort of flattening there. Okay. The other sorts of jobs, like the more entry-level forms of your financial services. Guess what? Your financial services predatory bullshit corners of the market are quite keen to eat your salary and your lunch as well as their own, right? I mean, how lucky are you feeling, punk, right? And you know, like in the dog eat dog world, are you the biggest dog? This is what you got to think if you're in the non-real economy. So if you're in those little piggy jobs that you can describe to your children in the little coloring book, this is what daddy does, this is what mommy does, you know, look, there are they doing it, cooking, growing, you know, farming, whatever. Those sorts of things probably still worth studying one way or another. The question is, depending on that, do you need a degree or just need the skill? So professionals, some professions require a degree and they're not going anywhere. Again, the sort of healthcare ones are quite come to mind quite quickly. But the other skills to look at are not necessarily degreed skills, but multi-purpose skills. Skills that can allow you to solve the solutionist thing, multiple problems in various different contexts.
Okay.
And that might be the ability to sell.
Okay.
You know, you don't need a degree for that, but if you can sell whatever it is, whether you're selling advertising space or cheese or spades for the next gold rush, whatever, that's a classic multi-purpose skill. The ability to communicate, right? These are quite broad strokes. Do you need degrees for them? Maybe not. Increasingly, people are looking at like micro credentials to verify that so that you can turn that into a career. But that's what you got to kind of be looking at. If you're going to start out your career, you don't want to get a degree in something that's going to have a short half-life or have no market value fit, or you're going to end up like those COVID relief graduates in South Africa, unemployed, or like the college graduates in the US who for the first time this year, a college grad had a slightly higher propensity to be unemployed than the general population.
What?
Yeah. So, you know, it comes back down to what those college grads are studying. So if you dive into that, of course, you'll see huge variance. You'll still see college grads are among the highest earners with the best employment rate in certain segments of that. But other ones that are studying the wrong things that have no market value fit are less valuable than a non-college grad that taught themselves a serviceable skill like felling a tree.
Or roofing.
Or electrical or roofing. Those people are more, that's why you have that distinction. So think very carefully. Are the skills giving you a professional certification that comes with a moat that you could go and use and will be useful to an end user directly? You'll be certainly fine no matter what happens. Or multi-purpose serviceable skills to solve real problems for real people, whatever that might be. Which is two very big pools. You'll find all sorts of things in there, from personal trainers all the way through to rocket science and neurosurgeons, all fall into the highly employable, highly valuable group. But there's also an awful lot of bullshit in the middle, a lot of safe careers that can become very, very risky very, very quickly. Particularly in the fire space. That's the whole sort of financial services, insurance, the moving money around layer of the economy, the ones you don't find in the little piggy book pages.
Everything I thought
the ones that move money around rather than create and make and build and do stuff.
Okay.
I'm mostly just stressed about also people who are already in it now. So you've already studied this thing, you are now done. How do you actually like survive it? I think for like even the matric students, they can still find a way to like, you know, find some other interest that's not going to get eaten up by AI. What about someone who's already like studied this thing, they are done now and they're starting to realize I'm not going to get a job because most of the businesses just prefer to say, okay, AI and it's free or like a monthly fee that's less. What about those? How do they survive it? Do they study something else or?
It depends what you studied. First of all, what you're going to do is figure out what you studied is not the degree you got, which we kind of, in our minds, we see it. The degree is what we won. That's what we've got. Instead, you've got to like unpack that and go back to all things you learned and figure out what is the actual list of skills that you got out of that studying. And you would have got some skills, whether they were research skills. Again, that's a multi-purpose skill, right? Whether that was like focus group skills, being able to draw information out of people, whatever you were studying. If it was statistics, was it logical thinking? What are the actual skills that you have? Because by unpacking your skills and turning them into that mental model of like putting them in your little Swiss Army knife, you're able to apply that knife to different contexts. And that opens up your opportunities instead of saying, oh my goodness, I have a degree in, I don't know, whatever it is, like anthropology of like, you know, some tribe somewhere. You're going to say rather, what are the skills that I actually have, right? That can be useful to an ad agency in terms of like insights into consumers or to whatever, a political party to go and find to try to solve some problem there. So unpack all your skills and then see how each of those skills can be applied somewhere else. And you could find yourself in a very different direction to where you thought you were starting up. We make the mistake of thinking, unless you're going into one of the professional fields, like I mentioned, like being a doctor or being whatever that is, like that is that profession that you've got this qualification, you can start working, whether it's a doctor, a plumber, physiotherapist, those sorts of things. You got that. You have a useful service. You've got those other things. Unpack all the stuff that you can do and see how you could reconfigure it, kind of like those like those airplanes that the kids have, and you could rebuild them into a different format. You can make a different thing. Like your Transformers. Like how do you transform those skills, rebuild them in a different set, or like the Lego sets that you could reconfigure in different ways to think more modularly about your career, especially when you're young. What your skills should open up more opportunities, not close you off. Again, unless you are a very set, focused A-type person that's on a professional track career. Rather think about the skills and qualifications, about broadening your set of opportunities as to where and how you could work throughout the marketplace, throughout the world.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Something that the headmaster, the new headmaster at Khosi's old school said, he said we need to be teaching our students how to become employers rather than how to find employment. Is that maybe a mindset shift that students should be thinking now, going, okay, instead of looking for a job, maybe if I acquire a set of skills that can help me create something of value that I can offer.
Yeah, that's not necessarily what everyone wants. Not everyone wants to take on the risk of having a business and all the rest of it. So what we instead encourage people to do is to consider your career as being yourself incorporated. So think of yourself as being an entity. But like that set of Lego blocks, you can apply yourself in different contexts.
You are the brand.
But understand that you like owning yourself and you're owning your own career. So even if you're working in an organization or for a salary, you're not owned psychologically by that company. Which could open you up for huge risk when your company gets a call by Sharon one day and says this whole department is not adding value, and you've been working there for 20 years, right? Yeah. So then you're in a lot of trouble, which a lot of older people are finding themselves in. We talk a lot about young people trying to find their place in the workplace. This is a lot more scary for people who've been collecting their bullshit paycheck for 30 years and honestly believe they work very hard. You know? But just because they've never had to compete in that market, but having that mindset of yourself as being this individual incorporated, you've got all these skills, you're in control of them, you can apply them in different contexts, you're more empowered. The entrepreneurship or forced entrepreneurship trap can also be a trap, especially when it forces people into precarious employment, like an underemployment, like in the gig economy, right? Working as like a e-hailing driver where you're subject to the whims of an algorithm that determines whether you're getting routes today or not, that pushes competition on you, that drives your wages down as more people are forced into precarious employment. There's a fetishization about entrepreneurship, where we should rather think about sort of self-ownership and self-direction, because you're still not a self-directed person if you're a gig working entrepreneur without labor rights, but also without any control over your own income, other than whatever the platform's bringing. And the other thing is, when it comes to like telling everyone to employ other people, that's a noble goal, but it's very, very hard to start a business. Business failure rates are very high. And most people ultimately, what most people want, like right down the bottom of Maslow's hierarchies of needs, people want security. The trick is that we've been taught to believe that having a salary job gives you security, but it doesn't. You have a bit more security in South Africa because it's a bit harder to retrench people or to fire people. In America, having a salary job means nothing. You could get fired on a whim. Right? So we've tricked ourselves, we taught our children into thinking that being owned by someone else is security. Whereas owning yourself is really the ultimate security. So don't feel a responsibility to like own other people too. But working with people, seeing how to work in different places, that's the sort of mindset I'll challenge. So both the sort of fetishization of entrepreneurship and the fetishization of the employment are both notions that make a lot of people feel helpless. Of course, some people want to be entrepreneurs, but as an economist, I'll tell you, most people are happy to have less risk, in other words, not be an entrepreneur, and in exchange for less freedom too. Most people would prefer safety of knowing that I've got enough money to pay the rent at the end of the month. Some people have high risk appetite, but it's not everyone. So let's not just be glib, and we tell young people just start a business. Yeah, but it's that mindset of self-ownership, owning your own destiny, owning your own skills. That gives you more power to negotiate with employers. It also makes things like freelancing and contract work and more outcomes-based employment contracts, which we speak about in the book, more palatable to both parties, because you're negotiating from a sense of understanding your own worth and your own value that you're bringing to the marketplace in a way that often salaried employees can't. So that shift in mindset to like saying I'm on a salary I'm a contractor that's got deliverables, and this relationship can be fruitful for many, many years, ideally, but from being a more equal partnership between the employer and the employed is a more positive way to look at this flattening of the value curve that we're seeing.
Okay.
For me personally, I don't even know if it's a question, but it's more of a statement. What I'm seeing mostly is that AI is really just restricting the dreams that people have now. You know, the fact that you have to consider it before you consider what you want to do.
Oh, wow.
I feel like literally it has just restricted now, because you like numbers, you want to be a mathematician, but you just feel like, oh, it's not useful anymore. We have AI. So it really feels very restrictive. Like, are there even like pros to it anymore besides being a university student and you can use it to just help you out in your schoolwork? But are there even any pros to AI, especially career-wise for people?
Well, that really depends on how you look at it. Are you seeing it as a tool? Are you seeing it as a master? Are you seeing it as a competitor? It's certainly a competitor for many tasks and for many current roles that we know them, like jobs, like a job as being a whole package. But again, when you separate that job out into tasks or problems that can then be solved, the solutions and the skills that you bring, you can see a new way to sort of put those like puzzle pieces together. But when we see things in terms of the package, in terms of your skills equals a certificate, boxes you into being a lawyer or an actuary or whatever it is, as opposed to someone who can do all these things, that self-limits, because that matches again with what the job market's offering, right? So kind of both sides need to sort of dismantle these ideas into the pieces and find where the pieces are that are not so easily replicable by AI. And certain fields are certainly more at risk than others. AI is very different to the last sort of industrial revolution, which was much more about the physical, the real piggy side of the market, whereas this is much more about the numbers and knowledge side of the market. But that's the kind of good news is from a bit longer down the line is that real side of the market that was disrupted by automation as opposed to sort of by artificial intelligence is now some of the most in-demand careers around. Like there's crazy data on the growing value of, or the price of labor of services that we've discounted for a very long time, whether you're talking about care work and nurses, or whether you're talking about plumbers or air conditioner repairmen or carpenters. Their value is quite consistent over time. But in comparison to how much money you could make in the bullshit economy, it looked like it was a very poor career choice. But remember, the bullshit economy is only good as people are buying your bullshit, right? So it was never real. And when that bubble kind of collapses, the real side of the market in comparison comes more down to real value. I mean, you can see this, like I keep saying, financial advisors in the US are chasing after plumbers and electricians and nannies who are earning more than the white collar knowledge working class, as they probably well should. Actually, if you look at this from as an alien looking down at Earth, it was like, why are you paying the person makes PowerPoint more than paying that person that's growing food? You know, like, so a lot of what feels very unfair, if you are on the side that feels the elevator going down, is probably a good wake-up call for us all to revalue what our values are. And it's something like a little bit of scarcity and economic competition to remind us on what we really need, what we really value, which is what we're seeing amongst the majority of the world. Again, the edges are always going to be a bit weird.
It seems like a good thing for a country like South Africa, where
the opportunities are huge. If we don't kick our own goals in terms of not having access to the basic data that is required to access the AI model that is required to access the new floor, which has raised everyone or would raise everyone up if you could just get on top of it. You know, it's like there's sort of basic things we have to get right to not be victims of a different sort of change and competition. But overall, the opportunity is much greater than the threat, because there's no threat to people who have nothing to lose.
Okay.
So
you would say yourself, you're an optimist about AI.
No, I'm a nihilist or an anarchist. So
Okay, say more about that.
Elaborate.
Professionally, that's a whole different story. Personally, I'll defer to Joan Didion and be like, I do question most forms of progress. What is really progress? Progress is personal, right?
Okay.
Change is real. Change is inevitable.
Okay.
Dynamics are shifting. As to whether that is on balance a good thing or a bad thing, it depends very much on your perspective and where you're starting out on. So,
Okay.
Sure. Also, I think just also tying it back, because I like childhood, because I think it gives us a sort of like start to a person. Like, how did you actually know this is actually what you want to do? Being a futurist, being an economist, because it seems like something you're passionate about. You have all this information, you have all this knowledge about it. Was there ever like a start where you're like, oh, actually, I question a lot of these things in the economy. I want to be an economist.
well, I knew I didn't want to be any of the things we've spoken about, right? I didn't want like a job. I didn't want a particular career. And the field that I'm in as a futurist is a very generalist field. It's one of the very few fields where it's a good idea to be a generalist, to know a little bit about all sorts of different things without having to choose or pick favorites. So I'm a specialist generalist.
Okay.
And I haven't read an awful lot of books, even when I was very little. I started very young. It's very hard to catch up,
Yeah.
And like AI can keep up with the data, but it doesn't keep up with the context that you build from being a real person having done this for longer, which gives you the skill to be able to explain things, which is really the value that we deliver. So we deliver the ability to explain things in a way a human understands, not the way a machine would explain things.
Yeah.
And the more information is there, the more AI can produce the answer, the more people need someone to explain to them why this matters to me or to personalize it, which is kind of the role that we have.
I can't remember.
As a business counselor, you want to put it that way, right?
Sure.
As I said, therapy's big business. And
Makes sense.
Yeah. I can't remember if it was in this book or another one where it was either you guys said it or someone else said that AI is a master of the average, something along those lines.
Yeah. It's definitely a flattener.
Yeah. So in a way, I mean, like when you ask a ChatGPT a question, for example, it gives you the most average answer.
Yes, it's democracy in action, right? It's just like democracy gives you the lowest common denominator acceptable ruler of a country. Which is much better than someone that's going to be extreme on either side, whose head you will have to cut off as the people eventually, right? So democracy is never going to give you excellence. Yeah. That's why people look at democratically elected presidents and go like, is this the best we can do? Absolutely not. But this is the best we can all agree on, which is very, very different. So democracy is designed to make our politicians average, to flatten them.
Okay.
Without cutting their heads off, okay? So AI does very much the same thing with our information, right? It gives us the most average acceptable version of excellence, which is not super excellent in any direction, but it is
grammar's
super
correct.
Yes, it's fine. It gives you the fine answer, right? It's never going to give you the weird or the wonderful or whatever.
Absolutely creative.
And it can only ever refer to what we've already put into it. So the more stuff we put in, the more things get kind of flattened to average, which is a good thing for most of the time, because average by definition means 50% of everybody was worse at that than average, right?
Okay.
So it's and most of us are not good at everything. Most of us are below par in most things. That's how statistics works, right?
Yeah.
And we all tend to think of ourselves, when you think about average, those people on the other side of that.
Yeah.
Like half the time you're probably wrong about that. So on average, it improves, it compensates for our weaknesses.
Yeah.
But it also takes the edge off our excellence.
Okay. Going back to the democracy thing here. Okay. Are politicians, are they in bullshit jobs?
Yes and no. Politicians are one of those things that are like a necessary evil. It's part of the sort of protocols upon which society runs, right?
Yeah.
Just like democracy is never going to give you the best leader. The best leader will be the good dictator. But is that a risk that you really want to take, right?
Okay. Oh, wow.
So the same sort of, you know what I mean? Like the best case scenario to lead your company is to have an Elon Musk, who will drag you to the top of the stock market as a shareholder. But do you really want to go along for that ride? It's very risky, they can turn at any minute. Whereas democracy is not going to give you those huge sort of peaks and troughs. That's the same reason why we have politicians and laws. They take a lot of the fun out of life and a lot of the money out of life too. They cost quite a lot, but they also sort of flatten the edges of the extremes. So they take excellence off, but they also take some of the sort of threats away. So they form a sort of buffer against the excesses of human nature. We definitely pay our politicians too much. I personally think that any country that pays the public servants more than the average wage of the population who is paying those bills is doing something wrong. So that's an indication that there's definitely bullshit in our political system. But we probably do need some of them. We can replace some of them with AI. Some countries have already done that. I think it's Azerbaijan that wants to get rid of their corrupt government and replace it with an AI decision maker instead. But that's at the talking class of the politicians. The actual civil servants, the ones who like the little piggy characters, are doing stuff like the ones who fix the water pipes. In reality, not in theory. They don't always do that, but the ones who actually do that, the civil servants that actually do the service, we need them. We probably need more of them. We don't have enough of them. We got more of them in the talking class. Just like in our actual private sector economy, you've got too many people moving money around and not enough people making and doing things.
But you're saying we can switch out the talking class at some point.
Yes. We've definitely got a lot in the talking class. We've got more politicians than we need. So we pay them more than we should. That I would agree with.
What if an AI ran in the next election?
Well, that's up to democracy. If it would be the most democratic thing to do, because it would give us an average consensus answer. Which is very democratic. I mean, it's basically it's aligned. Sooner or later, someone's going to do that. I think there have been some municipalities in I think the UK or Scotland that tried that a while back. And Azerbaijan's quite serious about
it.
Chucking out the whole cabinets. And there have been companies that have tried this. They've put AI CEOs in. I don't know if I'd do that though, because as a business, you have to aim for the edges in order to make a profit. You can't aim for the average.
We do need someone. But in a country,
for politicians, it's a good idea to aim for the middle.
It feels to me at least it would be more democratic in terms of like the AI would look at all the data of all the people in the country and go like, let's make decisions for as many people as possible, for the greatest percentage of people, right?
Yeah, except for the fact that AI is not it's not God. Even if we believe it is, because like everything feels like magic as soon as we stop understanding, and not one of us actually understands exactly what's happening in the black box. So we feel like it's smarter than us. But again, the data we gave it. Is that data unbiased? And how we program, what is the best for everyone? We'd all have a different answer on that.
That's true.
And then you could say, I just get an AI to agree that. And then you got AI inception. It's turtles all the way down. And you're still no closer to the immutable truth about what the average consensus really was. That's not to say, as a futurist, people aren't looking into that. The whole EEG brainwave reading technology is making huge advances. So if, hypothetically speaking, every human being on Earth would be happy to take a Neuralink chip or to wear an EEG headset, we would be able to measure everybody's brainwaves to hear what people really think, not what they say, because all information on the internet is what we were prepared to say in the public domain. Not what we really think. We all lie on the internet, or lie through omission, shall we say. We're not dumping all of our darkest thoughts, but if we all were to submit to sharing our unedited, unfiltered thoughts directly to the cloud, as some technologists are wanting to do. Like if at birth you have like a little electrode planter in your brain to add to the consensus, then you could get to consensus data. At the moment, the AI we've got is very biased. Just due to where that information comes from and where it doesn't. Remember the digital divide? All the people whose thoughts are not even on blogs or on TikTok yet. There's a whole lot of stuff that's missing. But I don't know. I don't know if we want that either. Do we really want that much democracy, or are we happy with a slightly imperfect version of average? That's another question. I don't have answers for that. But
it might be.
So I'm not sure if I was Azerbaijan, I'd be rushing into that right now. Probably want to wait until a bit more complete data.
I think wasn't Trump's tariffs, didn't they say a lot of that data was just spat out of ChatGPT and
there's synthetic data too. You can make it up yourself. Convince yourself of anything.
Yep, that's true. Okay. Wow. What are you most excited about in the future? What do you, in terms of trends and analysis, what do you think is coming? What Are you excited about it, or is it just like, well, it is either good or bad, it doesn't really matter, it's your perception? Is that the answer? Yeah.
Well, this will be very mean, but I'm excited to see what happens to the world when Europe runs out of money.
Oh.
Sure.
Much of our conversation, the whole sort of privilege apocalypse applies to countries as well as to,
Wow.
Gen Z job seekers.
And you just said when they run out of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember what I was saying about this whole flattening of the curve? It's the most predatory predator that wins. And I don't think there's many political analysts who would say that Europe is the most predatory animal in the geopolitical jungle.
Yeah.
But they certainly on the upside of average when it comes to wealth accumulation.
Yeah.
So I said it will be interesting to see.
The privilege apocalypse. That's almost like karma in a weird way.
Yeah.
That is quite exciting and scary, but
we'll see.
So, and what about for you personally, like that you feel you've used AI for and you were like, well done, AI, and one thing that you feel like, no, not well done, AI, for you personally in your use of it?
Yeah, we used AI like Socrates used Plato to write our book, just to be very grandiose. So that's we didn't get AI to write our book for us. We got AI to dictate our thoughts while we pontificated.
Okay.
On a platform very similar to this. So we recorded loads and loads of conversations and then used that as the raw material from which we whittled a book out of many words.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So it's a bit different way. Instead of getting AI to tell us what to think, we got AI to shut up and listen.
Yeah.
And do the work we didn't want to do.
Yeah.
The stuff that's like takes a lot of time, like typing. I mean, I still type with, I think I type with 3 of my 10 fingers. I did not do typing in school.
Yes.
So this saved me a lot of time.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to think, no, just those, 3 fingers.
I think same.
This one.
You know which ones. The pinkies must always be up and it's just, yeah.
And if you were made president of South Africa, what would you do?
Sure.
Yeah, I would ban foreign capital from buying any real resources we have from our real economy. Hands off South Africa's real economy.
Okay, what are real resources?
All those piggy jobs, so the labor,
Yeah.
and all the stuff the piggies grow.
No foreign capital into that.
Not buying property, not buying people,
Okay.
not buying assets, not buying water rights or gold rights.
Okay.
Yes. I'll give all my free market foundation elderly fan clubs hives for that. But, until America stops firing its money printing machine, which is not a real machine.
Yeah.
It's really just an accounting sleight of hand.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be trading real stuff for made up money.
Ah. So the value is in the actual things, not the...
Remember the difference between the bullshit economy and the shit jobs? The shit jobs are hard work, but the sleight of hand is you blink and guess what? All the hard work that's been made by the people doing the shit jobs is owned.
Yeah.
By the people who move money around in a faster sort of little cup dance than you were able to keep your eyes on.
Wow. So that's the first thing you do.
Yeah. But I'd have to persuade the whole African Union to join us. So that would be the second thing,
Yeah.
Okay.
It wouldn't take just one country to go to lead.
I mean, you could, yeah.
Yeah.
But then you'd have to be sovereign, which we pretty much are. We can afford to do that. We've got a nice climate.
Yeah.
We've got our own oil even. We've certainly got solar, which we should probably be using a bit more of. We got food.
Yeah.
We got water. I mean, okay, maybe we'd have to get the Sutu to play along with us.
Yeah.
In Joburg, but you're okay here in Cape Town now.
Yeah.
But like if you have sovereignty, you've got a bit of leverage in that sort of game.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
But you need to be a bit of a dictator to make that stick because everyone wants a shortcut.
Yeah. Yeah. What else would you do?
What else would you? Oh, ban the leaf blowers. I mean, and then after that, I would ban Microsoft Teams.
Yeah. Yes.
Start strong hand here.
That's awesome.
Banning everything. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sure. I like that. And I think another question that we always ask as well is there anyone that you look up to? You want to say that person, I want to be like them.
Oh, Terry Pratchett for sure.
Sure.
May you rest in peace. GNU, Terry.
Sure.
Amazing.
Sure. Why is that?
Just start reading into it because he was a connector of dots, which is what I do, but less creatively.
Okay.
He's a writer, but he read a whole lot of history and economics and politics and philosophy, and he strung it into he Trojan horsed it into a very silly science fiction series.
Wow.
And really, it was a compendium of social commentary and connection of dots, which is basically what I do. So a lot.
Fantastic. I don't know if you've got any more questions. I'm I'm a bit baffled.
Same.
Yeah, it's like overwhelmed with information and so many like things like, oh my gosh, okay, look, I feel like I need to go back and listen to this whole thing again, and then I'm just gonna have 100 other questions because I think I just almost need to digest this.
Yeah. I feel like same. Definitely when I'm rewatching it again, I'm going to be pausing and like, okay, let's go look at this widely. So it was a good conversation. Yeah. Learned a lot.
Yeah. Maybe just a message to, we're going to give your book away. We'll put details on the show notes. If you're interested in surviving the AI apocalypse, is it going to be an apocalypse?
Well, it's that was the other Trojan horse. There's a very big AI on the cover. That's because Penguin, our publisher, and the Infinite Wisdom was like, people are buying stuff about AI right now. That's like making it really big. Yeah. We were going to have like the Solutionists guide too.
Oh, right, okay.
But that got changed around a bit. But it is a Trojan horse. The AI apocalypse you're talking about here is the privilege. Apocalypse, the flattening of the curve.
Okay,
I
like that.
That's what we are really talking about.
Surviving the privilege apocalypse. Wow. Wow. Maybe that's going to be the title of this episode.
Literally.
Yeah. Any message to I mean, we've seen that the young generation now are dealing with a lot of anxiety. They have a lot more access to information than our generation did, and there's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of like people are scared for what's coming. What kind of encouragement, what can you tell them?
That's a hard question. You can't tell people everything's going to be okay. It's not going to be okay for many people, but it's going to be better for other people too. So there's hope among this mess. The key thing in the whole sort of solutionist guide is to define your value and to own your value. And we've all got value to add, but your value is not your degree. Your value is not your connections. Your value is not your paycheck. You got to define what is the actual value that you can add to society. And you'll probably find it coming back to those little piggy pages. Like they were doing something that was useful to someone else. Like what is that? And if you are very clear about what your value is, you'll find someone who values that you bring.
And it's in your introduction, I think you said that there'll be more jobs created than lost.
Yeah, ultimately there will be. But again, jobs that'll be like a small J jobs. One of the things that we talk about in that book is about killing jobs, the idea of a job. Yeah. The idea of your worth being a job. Your value is a salary. That's not it. Again, it's this idea of what's your worth and what's your value, and how do you then trade that for whatever else it is you need in a way that benefits everybody that you're trading your time and talents with.
Okay. So then maybe it's more of advice to parents as to how to teach their kids to go like, okay, your worth is not in your job and your value is not in
Well, the message to parents is to stop telling your children that success equals having a job. Success equals being both valued and valuable.
Oh, well, yeah.
Sure.
And it's both of those components at the same time, because that's the whole bullshit jobs philosophy is you can be very highly valued without adding any value, but only you know that, as long as you're getting away with that for. You got to live with yourself too. But at the same time, if you are being valuable and you're not being valued, that's not a good situation to be in. So, you want to navigate situations where your worth is requisite with what you bring to the table.
Is being valued, is that a human right, or is it my choice that for me to be
absolutely
valued.
not. It's earned, right?
Being valued is earned.
And being valued is in the eye of the beholder, right? It's not
Okay.
in your eye.
Right.
Because again, you can work very, very hard at doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
You know, there's holes that have been dug for no reason all over the place.
Yeah. It's,
And is there nothing to be done about it? So to be valued,
Well,
is it
find a
just
way
a
to
luck
use those
thing?
skills in
Yeah.
selling to sell that hole as a swimming
Okay.
pool. You know, like you
So
what was that Arnold Schwarzenegger book? It was called like being useful. What was it called? Be useful.
yes,
Google it.
that's the one.
Yeah.
Be useful.
Be useful. So that's, and I mean, all he just said was he just found ways to be useful.
That's being valued. It's being useful.
Just be useful.
And that's being useful to someone other than yourself. Yes.
Yeah. But there's hope.
Oh, there's always hope.
Yeah.
There's always hope. But what the thing about the future is we get the future we want, ultimately. Like, you don't really want to hear that. But collectively, individually, sure, stuff's going to go wrong. It's not your fault.
Yeah.
But collectively, democratically speaking, we get the future most of us want, right?
Okay.
It's what we vote for with our time, with our money, you know?
Yeah.
sure.
We get more Marvel movies because y'all keep going to watch them.
Lovely.
Yeah. I'm totally perplexed and baffled, but I totally enjoyed it. And thank you so much for your time. And we are giving away How to Survive the AI Apocalypse, a guide to solutionists, and solutionist is now a word. You can solution something. So
Be a solutionist.
yeah. Details will be on the show notes. If you want to check out our website, everything will be there. And
Sure.
awesome. Thank you so much. I do feel so like, what? It's a lot of information.
That's why they pay me to talk to them.
I was like, what?
See, by the time the fog clears, I'm gone with the money.
Yeah. No, that's